Welcome to Solving Equations by Addition and Subtraction. Before we begin, there's two properties you should know. One is the addition property of equality, and the other one is the subtraction property of equality. Are you sick of properties yet? The good news is they're not over with. Okay, the whole point of properties is to tell you how to manipulate your problem, how to work your problem, how to solve for the variable. Okay, they're the reason behind what we do in algebra. The addition property of equality tells me if I have A equals B, well, what it says is I can say A plus C will equal B plus C, as long as I add the same thing to both sides. Let me show you an example. If I have 7 equals 7, y'all agree with that? If I have $7, it's, well, equal to $7. Okay? If I were to add, let's pick any number here, say 3. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side in order to keep the equation equal. And does 10 equal 10? Yes, it does. And that way it keeps the equation equal. In other words, if I had a scale here, and here I go with my drawing, be scared, and I had a scale here, and looks like a little robot. Okay, if I had, let's say, let me get a color you can see. I had 1, 2 is equal to 2 purple rectangles, right? Everybody agree with me on that? Well, if I were to add a red rectangle, they're unbalanced. They're not the same, so the scale's going to tip to one side. So I have to add the same thing to the other side, which would be another red rectangle. And that's what the addition property of equality is telling you. You can manipulate the problem as much as you want, as long as what you add to one side, you're going to add to the other side. Hence, we have the subtraction property of equality. And what the subtraction property of equality tells me, if I have A equals B, and I subtract the same number or variable from both sides, they're going to be equal. For example, if I have, does $14 equal $14? Well, yes, it does. If you have $14, you have $14. But the thing is, if I were to say 14 minus 2, well, 14 minus 2 is 12. I don't have $14 anymore, so it's not equal to the other side of the equation. So I have to do the exact same thing, and that's subtract 2 on both sides, hence having the same amount. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw my scale again. My beautiful scale. Woo, this is why I went into math, because I'm not an artist by any means, but I do try. Go up to my shapes, and if I have 1, 2, 3 rectangles on this side, 1, 2, 3 rectangles on this side, and in order to make or keep this scale equal, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So if I'm going to take away 1, I have to take away another 1 on the other side, hence keeping both sides of the scale equal, or keeping both sides of the equation equal. Let's go ahead and see how we add and subtract on both sides so we can isolate the variable or get the variable all by itself. Now, whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other side according to the properties. So let's take a look at that right now. I have m minus 48 equals 29. The opposite of negative 48 is positive 48. And that's what I do to both sides of the equation. Okay, you need to think of this as a line down the middle. I bring whatever's left on this side down, m, that equals 0, so it cancels out, equals, and 29 plus 48, 9 plus 8 is 17, carry the 1, 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 77. I'm going to take my answer, since I know m equals 77, I'm going to double check. Does 77 minus 48 equal 29? Yes, it does. Let's go on to the next one. I have there's no sign in front, so it's a positive 21. I'm going to start with this because I want to isolate my q. So I'm going to do the opposite. Since I need to move the 21 over to this side, I need to do the opposite. The opposite of adding 21 is subtracting 21. And what I do to this side of the equation, I must go over to the other side of the equation and do the exact same thing. 21, a positive 21 and a negative 21 cancels each other out. I'm left with a q equals. Now the signs are the same, so I'm going to add. 8 plus 1 is 9, 2 plus 1 is 3, and take the sign of the larger number. So my answer is negative 39. I'm going to take that and plug that back into my problem to see if it works. Does 21 minus, and then does a positive 21 and a negative 39 give me negative 18? Yes, it does. Let's go to this one. I want to isolate my r. That means I want my r to be all by itself. Well, right now it's connected to a negative 8. I need to move the negative 8 over to the other side. I need to get rid of it over here, so I need to balance out my equation. In order to do that, I have to add. The opposite of negative 8 is a positive 8. And what I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other side of the equation. 32 plus 8, 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1, 3 plus 1 is 4, equals, bring my r down, and these cancel out because positive and negative of the same thing is 0. My answer is r equals 40. I'm going to take it and substitute into r. 32 equals 40 minus 8. Is that true? Yes, it is. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. 7 equals 42 plus t. I have a positive 42. The reason I'm starting with the 42 and not the 7 is because I need to get the t all by itself. So I need to move whatever's on this side over to the other side of the equation. I do that by doing the opposite. The opposite of a positive 42 is a negative 42. And what I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other side of the equation. And 42 minus 7 is 35. My negative equals t, because positive 42 and negative 42 cancel each other out. And so therefore t equals negative 35. Let's see if that's right. 7 equals 42 plus a negative 35, or 42 minus 35 is 7. Okay, let's go to this one. I have n minus 12. I need to get the n all by itself by isolating it, and therefore I need to move the negative 12 over to the other side. The best way to do that is, what's the opposite of a negative 12? Positive 12. And what I do to one side, I do the other side. I bring down my n. That cancels out, equals. Now the signs are different, so I find the difference. 7 minus 2 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1. The negative is on the larger number. 27 is larger than 12, so I'm going to take that sign. N equals negative 15. Let's plug it in. Negative 15 minus 12 equals negative 27. If you plug it into the calculator, yes, it does. On to the next one. K plus 63 equals 92. I want to get the k all by itself, so I have to move the 63 over to the other side. The opposite of positive 63 is a negative 63, because remember, I want to zero it out. I bring down my k. That cancels out, equals. Oh, I forgot to subtract 63 on this side. I hope you did. 92 and 63 would be 29. So k equals 29. Let's plug it in. Does 29 plus 63 equal 92? And yes, it does. Okay, let's do some more. 142 plus d equals 97. Change colors here. I need to get my d all by itself. Okay, so I need to move the 142 over to the other side. The opposite of a positive 142 is a negative 142. Positive 142 and negative 142 equals 0. I bring down my d, equals. The signs are different, so I subtract. And 142 minus 97, put a 13 there, is 5, would be 45. Now the negative's on the larger number, so my answer is d equals negative 145. I'm sorry, negative 45. Okay, I'm going to substitute, and let's check it out. Does 142 plus negative 45, or subtract 45, equal 97? Yes, it does. Okay, let's go here. I have a k. I need to isolate my k all by itself. I need to move the positive 27 over to the other side. The way I do that is I need to zero it out, and what will give me 0? The opposite of positive 27 is a negative 27. Cancel that. Draw that line. Positive 27 and negative 27 zero each other out. I bring down my variable k, and 30 minus 27 is 3. And to go back and substitute, does 27 plus substituting in your answer for k equal 30? Yes, it does. You always go back and check your answer. There's no reason to get a problem wrong here. Okay, I have my variable p. It's on the same side as the 16, positive 16, so I need to move the 16 over to the other side. The opposite of positive 16 is a negative 16. What I do to one side, I do the other side. That cancels it out, brings down my p, equals, these are both negatives, the same. If the sign's the same, you find the sum. So 6 plus 2 is 8, 1 plus 1 is 2, and take the sign. And so my answer is negative 28. Now I go back and substitute and check my answer. Negative 12 equals, does negative 28 plus 16 give you negative 12? Check on your calculator. It certainly does. Oh, I love fractions. Okay, back to fractions. It's the same concept, guys. I have my variable g, and the 3/4 is on this side of the equation. The opposite of a positive 3/4 is a negative 3/4. So I'm going to subtract 3/4. I bring down my g. Positive 3/4 and negative 3/4 are opposites, so they cancel each other out. Now I can't add these until I have a common denominator. 8 and 4, that's a negative 1/8. Turn that to an 8. 4 times 2 is 8. What I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. 3 times 2 is 6, and that's a negative 6/8. Now I can solve the numerators, and I have a negative 1/8 and a negative 6/8, so negative 1 and negative 6 equals, hello, a negative 7/8. Okay, you can plug that in. Does negative 7/8 plus 3/4 equal negative 1/8? Yes, it does. You can trust me on that. Okay. Back to writing algebraic equations. So they want you to write the equation, and then they want you to solve it. Okay, let's take it step by step. A number. I don't know what the number is, so I'm going to use a variable. Increased plus by 5 is equal, use both of them, to 42. Now I need to solve. I have my variable here. I need my variable all by itself. So that means I need to move the positive 5 over to the other side. The opposite of positive 5 is a negative 5. I'm left with, bring my variable down, x, that cancels out, equals, and 42 minus 5 is 37. So x equals 37. Now go ahead and check it. Does 37 plus 5 equal 42? Yes, it does. Okay, let me move these up a little bit. Okay, let's do this one step at a time. 25 is your number. Is means equals 3 less than a number. Now, remember the key word, than, means you need to switch these. So my problem is 25 equals x minus 3. Now I need to solve. Okay, I need to get rid of, wrong pen, it says x minus 3. I need to move this negative 3 over to the other side. The way I do that is by the opposite. The opposite of negative 3 is a positive 3. And if I add 3 to one side, I have to move the 3, add 3 to the other side, which cancels out. So x equals 28. And if you take a look, 25 equals, substitute your answer back into problem. See if it makes sense. Does 28 minus 3 equals 25? Yes, it does. Let's take a look at the next one. A number increased, means addition, by negative 16, put that in parentheses because it's a negative 16, is negative 21. Now I can solve it. I have two signs here. I'm going to rewrite it. X minus 16. The reason I wrote x minus 16 is because if I have a positive and a negative, it's always going to be a negative. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is always going to be negative. If you have an even number, well, that's in multiplying and dividing. That's exactly what you're doing here. You're multiplying. If you had a negative negative, it would be a positive. If you had a negative, if you had positive, if the signs are the same, your answer is going to take on that. No, that's wrong. Trust me on this one. You're multiplying in this case, and if when multiplying you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is going to be negative. If you have an even number of negatives, your answer is going to be positive. So take a look at the both signs. If it says plus negative or minus plus, put down a negative. Okay? Equals negative 21. And it's a lot easier to solve now that I have one answer. Well, the opposite of negative 16 is a positive 16. Bring down my x. That cancels out. If I add 16 to one side, I have to add 16 to the other side. And negative 21 and negative 21 and 16 is 5. Take the sign of the larger number. X equals negative 5. Go ahead and check it. Does negative 5 plus negative 16 equal 21? Yes, it does. Let's go on to a word problem. As you can see here, in a recent year, 1,286 female deer were born in Lewis County. That was 93 fewer. I'm having trouble reading. Better get new glasses. That was 93 fewer than the number of male deer born. How many male deer were born that year? Well, what do I know? Let's go ahead and highlight what I know. I know that there were 1,286 female deer born, and I also know that's 93 fewer than the number of male deer born, and they want to know how many male deer? 93 fewer male deer equal 1296. Now, I have the word then in there. You understand where I said I wrote it? I took this sentence and I read left to right. 93 fewer minus than the number of male deer. Okay? Now, I need to switch these. So it's really saying x minus 93 equals 1,296 female deer. Now let's go ahead and solve. The opposite of, I need to isolate my x to find out how many male deer, and the opposite of negative 93 is a positive 93. And x equals, 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 18, 2 plus 1 is 3. So, I have 1,389 male deer. Is 1,389 male deer minus the 93 fewer will give me back the female deer, because that's 93 fewer than the male deer. Okay? And that's it. Thank you very much for watching how to add and subtract one-step equations.